Good morning, everybody. John Phillips here, JP Mortgages. It's October the 15th today, and I've got Chris Barwick with me, a long-term friend of mine. Chris, thanks for coming in.
No problem. Good to
Great to see you again. Senior Business Development Manager from Fleet Mortgages. Chris,
right.
Really appreciate you coming today. I wanted to talk about the Renters' Right Bill, because I know you open all this stuff, and it just helps clients out there now, especially my clients, landlords, that are going through what's going on. They want to know what's going on. So can you just touch on the Renters' Right Bill that's being pinged-ponged about in Parliament at the moment, please?
Yeah, no problem. So the Renters' Rights Bill is a set of changes that have been, implemented by Labour. As you say, it's been going between the House of Commons and House of Lords for some time now, and it's a set of rules designed to really protect tenants from all the nasty landlords out there. If you believe what you read in the press, all landlords are out to get the tenants, which we all know isn't true. But yeah, it's a new set of rules specifically designed to protect tenants and give them more rights in their rental homes.
Okay. And what's going to be happening with the existing ASTs, Chris?
So ASTs are going to be a thing of the past. So at the moment, you can have an AST that's anything from 6 months to 3 years over a fixed term. They're going to be abolished, and we're going to be moving to what's called a periodic tenancy. So that is an indefinite tenancy agreement where tenants are able to stay in the property indefinitely, basically, and that's called a periodic tenancy moving forward.
Right. What about fixed term tenancy? Is that the same?
Again, yes, that's what we'll see disappear from the market when we move to the periodic tenancies.
And obviously a big one is Section 21. Can we talk about Section 21, please?
That's right, yeah. So the no-fault evictions where landlords want to regain possession of the property, they can essentially do that at the moment for, lots of various spurious reasons. But going forward, there's going to be very specific criteria where landlords will be able to regain possession of the property. For example, if they decide they want to sell their rental property, they'll be able to ask the tenants to leave. Or if they decide they want to then move back into that property themselves, they can ask the tenants to move out so they can have vacant possession. But there are rules around that govern if a landlord doesn't choose to either sell or move back into that property. It's 12 months before they can re-advertise that property for let. So it really is designed to protect the tenant. The other things that are in there for the no-fault evictions is if tenants stop paying the rent, for example, or if they're acting antisocially. And there are a few different grounds where a landlord can seek possession of that property, but it won't be as easy because the Section 21 won't be in existence.
So it's more protecting the tenants than the landlord now?
Absolutely right, yeah.
Let's talk about rent increases. What's happening there?
Yeah, so at the moment, with ASTs, you can have a baked-in rent increase on an annual basis, if you like,
That's right.
as part of the AST. But with ASTs, disappearing, there will be no more automatic rent increases. All rent increases will have to be discussed with the tenant, and if the tenant disagrees, it will have to go to court. And then the courts will have to make a ruling as to whether the rent increase is justified or not. And that court date could be way into the future. Once that's decided whether the rent increase is just or not, there'll be no backdating of rents. It will be from the date that the court rules. And we all know, the court systems in this country at the moment are under a lot of pressure anyway. So whether it's actually set up to be able to deal with the abolition of Section 21 with the new grounds and the rent increase cases, that's another thing that remains to be seen.
Thank you. Can we touch on, while you're here, please, rental bidding?
Yeah, so rental bidding, as we know at the moment, there's a lot of demand and not a lot of supply for rental properties. And a lot of tenants find themselves in a position where a property may be advertised for, let's say, £1,000 a month, but a landlord can quite easily accept an increased bid of maybe £1,200 a month, and they're going to accept the higher bid. But going forward, rental bidding is going to be outlawed. So when landlords are advertising a property for let in an estate agency, it's going to have to be let for the value per month that is advertised.
Right.
So no more bidding up that. Now, it's arguable whether that's going to increase artificially, rents, and we're going to see a bit of rent inflation, because if you're a landlord suspecting that you may get £1,200 for a property, you're not going to put it in the shop window at £1,000 a month. You're going to go up at the upper level, aren't you? So let's hope it doesn't do this, but it could artificially, inflate rental prices going forward.
Thanks for that, Chris. Can you also touch on rental discrimination?
Yeah,
please.
So landlords are not going to be able to discriminate who they house in their rental properties, whether that be, families that might have pets, families with children, people on benefits. They're going to have less say who they house. They're not going to be able to discriminate who they allow to rent their properties.
Really?
Right.
And what about this new private rental ombudsman scheme? Can you talk about it? I've read about it. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the key things about the Renters' Rights Bill is to professionalise the sector, and by creating an ombudsman service, that's one thing that will be created where all landlords will have to register for the ombudsman. So, you know, if tenants have any issues with the landlord, they've got somewhere to go with it, and vice versa. You know, landlords have got a body that they can speak to deal with any issues that might be created within the private rental sector.
Thank you. And there's a new thing coming out called the Decent Home Standards.
That's right, yeah.
Let's touch on that, please, if you will.
So it currently doesn't cover private rental sector, but, you know, with Awab's law that came into effect recently, you know, with the poor young lad who passed away because of the mould and the damp in the property,
Yes.
Into the future. It might not be implemented straight away because it will take a bit of updating some of the properties, but certainly now in the private rental sector moving forward, we are going to see decent home standards where all rental properties will need to be at a certain standard to be able to be rented out.
Thank you. And Renters' Right Bill, when do you think it will be implemented? What's your view of a date? What do you think at the moment?
Yeah, you quite rightly said at the start that we're at the ping pong stage at the moment
Yeah.
where they're debating. There's a new bit in the press every day about, you know,
That's
different
right.
bits that are being sort of thrashed out, if you like. It was muted that it would be, you know, autumn of this year, but I suspect now we're probably looking certainly the back end of this year, if not the start of 2026, before we see the final bill put into place.
And do you think it'll be a big shake-up in the rental sector yourself?
Potentially for one or two landlords, but I believe that, you know, most landlords out there are already offering a professional service to their tenants.
Yeah.
They want to provide decent housing, and they're already well ahead of the curve with this sort of thing anyway. So it's just formalising how they already look after the tenants and that professional way in which they act. I would say there's maybe one or two landlords who aren't going to be bothered with learning these new rules and regulations, and they may decide to sell up. But from our experience at the moment, it's the more professional landlords that are buying those properties from that type of landlord. And it's not a shrinking sector, you know, it's not freeing up those properties into, you know, the first time buyer market. It is other landlords that are buying the properties from landlords selling up.
Chris, that's great. Thank you so much. You've heard it here today. I'm John Phillips, JP Mortgages. This is Chris Barber from Fleet Mortgages. And landlords watching this, you now know what's kind of happening at the moment with your tenants. So it's now time to line your ducks up and obviously get ready for these new changes. Chris, thanks again for coming in today and supplying that information.
Thanks, JP. No problem.